Are we experiencing an epidemic of aimlessness, and are people who seek out self-help content just overstimulating themselves with too much information without actually getting any self-help out of it? I want to record a few thoughts in response to a video that showed up in my feed by a creator whose name I am at great risk of mispronouncing. Yasmin Badereldin, something like that. I will link to this below, of course, and to the video in question. She makes this point that the self-development industry is basically failing people because people end up consuming all this self-help content, all these ideas and idealized views of what it means to live a great life and so on. But you don't actually improve your life. You just keep consuming the next thing. And perhaps it leaves you even worse than where you started. Like I said, she makes a great point, and I recommend watching the video. One thought I want to add to this is that I think you can clearly see what is the source of this problem. The source of this problem is the attention economy. It's the mechanism by which content is delivered to us and the role that content plays in our lives. If you start looking at personal development content, you start following personal development channels on YouTube, creators on Instagram and other platforms, and then you find yourself kind of brainlessly consuming more and more, and it's like, okay, here's an idea, here's what I should do differently in my bedroom to sleep better, and here's I should change my diet and eat differently, and oh, here's something I need to do to be more productive, and here's something I need to do to be happier, and so on. But it's just one thing after the other, and just consuming. Well, basically, the tools you use to consume content have done their job successfully, if that's what's happening to you. You have to keep in mind that each of these platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, are designed to get and keep your attention. And they run algorithms to determine what kind of attention can we show you that will make you consume more content. Right? That's the goal. They want you to stick around so that you get more exposure to ads. That is their entire business model, and they have very sophisticated machine learning algorithms that figure out what to show you that makes you stick around longer. This is something that is often miscommunicated because the message is, oh, these algorithms are made to figure out what you like and show you things that you like, so they give you more of what you want. That is not true at all. They are not designed to find out what you like. They're not here to give you what you want. They're designed to find out what makes you stick around longer and to give you more of that. And this creates a feedback loop because creators on these platforms get rewarded for creating content that keeps you on the platform. And whether they're conscious of it or not, this is what happens. They learn what to do. They learn what kind of video to make, what kind of post to make that will end up getting you to stick around longer, because those are the things that they get the most views and likes and so on. And so they'll start making more of that. So even if you're never conscious of it as a creator, right? If I make a video and it gets 1,000 views, and then I make another video and it gets 10,000 views, even if I'm never making an attempt to, I immediately think, well, how can I do more of that, right? How can I do more of the thing that got me greater numbers, a greater reward? And by doing more of what's rewarded by the platform, I end up doing more things that keep my audience essentially addicted to the platform where I'm posting. All this is to say that the consumption of self-help content leading to more consumption and more consumption, more scrolling and more just consuming this content, not actually improving your life, that is by design. This is one of the reasons why in my content on Icario, I've talked about the attention economy at length, because I think you have to understand this. It's such a fundamental way in which our world works. You have to understand this, otherwise you'll be confused by something like this. You think my starting point was, I wanted to improve myself. I wanted to live a better life. And here I am, just like scrolling through content endlessly. What went wrong? Like, if you understand the underlying mechanism, it suddenly makes sense, doesn't it? But okay, so much for the problem. Like, what do you actually do about it, right? What's the solution? The simplest, most practical solution I can offer here that has definitely worked for me, and I've seen it work for other people, is to seek long-form content. Especially books, and in some cases, especially books that weren't written recently. So long-form content that is from before the era of attention optimization, where someone wrote a book not thinking, how do I wordsmith this? How do I how do I make a publisher like this? How do I get this on the bestseller list? But someone is like, hey, here's some good advice. And that's what they wrote in the book, right? Long form podcasts can also be useful. Podcasts are probably the form of media, the form of mainstream media that is the least attention optimized. And so the less attention optimized something is, the more there can be a core of real value there. Because the flip side is that the more attention optimized something is, the more the original core gets eroded and the entire thing is just about attention. So there's this counterintuitive thing where you kind of want to stay away from the most compelling content, usually. I don't want to make this like a general rule. I'm sure there are some creators who manage to bridge that gap, right? Who manage to make like highly engaging, entertaining content that's also useful and practical. But I would say that's the exception. The most compelling content is usually the stuff that like tickles the bottom of your brainstem. And that's where you might see imagery of, blue ass water and drone shots of exotic islands and people in bikinis living the best life. And that kind of also puts you in a position where you're comparing yourself and you feel worse about yourself and so on. And that's not helpful, but it is probably very compelling. But also, I'm not just talking about the visuals of content, right? Also in the, what are you being told? See, the most satisfying kind of stuff are very simple stories. Things that make it seem like a complicated problem has a very simple solution. It's kind of satisfying and easy to digest. Whereas reality is often highly complicated and complex. It takes too much brain power, right? It takes too much thinking about this. That's less compelling. And you almost have to seek out the less compelling stuff. So long story short, long form content over short form content. I think that's the simplest idea that I can give you that works, where if you make sure you consume more long form content than short form content, you'll probably find that you get a lot more benefit out of it. The other part is that you simply have to take responsibility. If you're serious about improving your life, you have to take responsibility for improving your life, for doing the things that will make a difference. And a good marker is that it's usually uncomfortable. Anything that really makes a difference to your life is probably going to be uncomfortable. You might be afraid of doing it. It might be a lot of effort. And if it's none of these things, it probably won't make a big difference. This is why we've recently started a series of content on how to become an implementer, to not just be a consumer, to not just be someone who knows a bunch of stuff, but someone who implements. And I think I can call myself a bit of an expert on this, because really I'm not very knowledgeable about anything, right? I don't have a degree or a certificate or a PhD or anything. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but I haven't let that hold me back. And in many areas of life, I've managed to get really good results for myself by executing well, by implementing a lot on relatively little information. A lot more doing than consuming. So those are just some thoughts. This is what has worked for me, and I'm sure it would work for you too. So if you find yourself in that situation where you've been a self-help consumer and you want to get out of that, this is a good starting point. The video I mentioned, linked below, is also a good starting point. And of course, you should subscribe to the Icario channel because a lot more is coming there too. What are your thoughts and questions on this? Let me know by leaving a comment. I think it's great to have this discussion, so I was very happy to see this video, and I wanted to make this just to get that discussion going. I think this is a very important discussion to have in the self-help industry, or the self-development industry, if you want to call it that. So this is me adding my voice, and I'd love to hear yours as well.